Well, it looks like we've stabilized at a fixed number of people. And so let me offer my thanks to the students and family members for signing in today and joining us at this town hall. This was a town hall that we had scheduled a while back, and it was intended to be a forum where you could ask any questions of our leadership team. We have many people from student affairs, from academic affairs, from our diversity, equity, and inclusion office, and just a great collection of people to answer any question that you might have as we kick off the new semester. However, I think it's most important for me to begin today to address the news that you probably heard, but may not have heard, regarding the University of North Dakota and our repatriation of ancestral remains of Native American ancestors, as well as sacred objects that we have found here on our campus. And I think it's important for me to first express my apologies to all of our American Indian students, faculty, and staff members, and most importantly, tribal communities across the continent for what we have found and the steps we failed to take to ensure that these ancestors were previously brought to their homes. This, and you'll hear from several of my colleagues here in a moment about their firsthand experiences with this work, but we made the discovery of the ancestors on our campus. And just for your information, and Laine Lyons, my colleague, can explain this more deeply in a moment, but in Native American culture, the depth of connection to generations that came before is deep. When we find remains, human remains of Native Americans, those are considered to be the ancestors and the spirit of those ancestors. And so when we face a situation where we unexpectedly find ancestors on our campus, the hurt and the harm and the pain that it causes our Native American colleagues, friends, neighbors is deep. And so we must recognize that. Furthermore, as we go forward with the repatriation efforts, which is the process by which we return the ancestors home, we're fully committed to see this until the very end, until everything is returned back to tribal lands. And it's important for us to make this commitment as a university because of the steps we failed to take along the way. Now, the ancestors and sacred artifacts date back decades. And so this was work that was done at the university and probably dates back. We've seen items from as early as the 1940s, but certainly the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And the committee that's been working on this, I have to assure you, had nothing to do with the ancestors or the sacred items being here on campus, but rather they were the group of people who stepped in a time of need to make sure that the sacred work would be done appropriately and as quickly as possible. This committee and I have been engaged with tribal leadership since March, building relationships, offering our apologies, and pledging our commitment to make sure that repatriation will happen thoroughly and fully. And in early August, we hosted a group of tribal leaders on campus to support us as we took ancestors and sacred items from multiple locations on campus and moved them into spaces that a single space that would now hold all of the ancestors and the sacred items so that the process of repatriation could begin. All of the spaces where the ancestors were and where they were moved to were blessed, and ceremonies were held to make sure that we would appropriately prepare the space for the ancestors and then to cleanse the spaces where they were. So this is important in the traditions and tribal customs. As we go forward, again, the partnership with the tribal nations is the most important to us. But after they visited in August, we felt that it was important to let our Native American community on campus and then the general public know about the work that was going on and what lays in front of us. It's imperative for us to look out for the well-being, the emotional and mental health and of all of our Native American students, faculty, and staff here on campus. And the resources have been made available to support them, both mental health resources, but also social support services as well, and just the sense of community that that we need to build to make sure they can get through this together. In addition, for non-Native members of the campus, I think it's important for us to show the respect and the dignity of what our friends and colleagues are facing. It's important for us to lend an ear and lend a hand wherever we can to make sure that they're getting the support that they need. So I ask the campus to come together in this important time of need to make sure we care for those most at risk. The final question that always comes up is, how did this happen, and who's going to be held accountable? And those are great questions. Our first priority is to bring the ancestors home. But as we do that work, it's important for us to understand the history of the scientific work that was intended. Science is a wonderful thing, but there are ethical boundaries that this particular science, I think we all recognize, overstepped. And so it's important for us to figure out and to have discussions with those who were involved in this work to understand, how did we end up in this position where we had ancestors and sacred items remain on our campus 30 years after the federal government put laws in place that said we have to return them home. So this is, I'm proud of the work of the committee. I know that their hearts and souls are in this work to make sure that we do this right. They have the full backing of the university for the work, but now that we've opened it up, we ask everybody to keep your eyes open for anything that you see on campus that might be Native American ancestors or sacred objects. And if you find anything, please call the committee, reach out to the committee, and we'll get the right people involved to handle those artifacts. The worst thing you could do is start poking around and digging in and lifting our artifacts and moving them. And then if students are involved, we give advice to students. Students will ask, how can we help? The main thing students need to do is be students and to focus on their well-being, and then also focus on their efforts in their classes. They don't need to bear the responsibility of trying to track down what might still exist on the campus. We don't know what's still on the campus, but we will again leave no stone unturned as we search for remaining items and ancestors on the campus. And with that, let me pull. I think Laine Lyons. I see her square here. Let me pull her forward. She'll give her account of what she's been through, and to give you a sense of her reaction as one of our Native American colleagues, and her story about what she's been through.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laine Lyons. I am an enrolled member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians in Belcourt, North Dakota. I am a 2016 graduate of the University of North Dakota, and I also am the Director of Development for the College of Arts and Sciences at the UND Alumni Association and Foundation here at UND. I just first want to say that as students, I know you go through a lot on top of your studies, on top of everything you have going on, jobs, other things. I just want you to know that you need to take care of yourselves. When added things like this happen, it adds that much more to your plate, that much more to your emotional state, physical well-being and everything. And I really want you to take care of yourself first. As far as my account goes into this, I've been doing this since the start. If any of you seen any of the press conference or anything else, the first account of when we start this story is November 18th, 2021. We began looking for artifacts on campus, and I was brought into this because of a question that was raised about certain artifacts that we had at the Alumni Association and Foundation, which included headdresses, traditional dresses, drums, moccasins, beadwork, stuff like that. And after noticing the wear and tear, we started to question, what else does UND have as far as artifacts? Where are they? Who knows about this? And no one really seemed to know. So between November and March 2022, we were working on policies about how we accept things, how we care for things, stuff like that. Fast forward to March 3rd, I received a phone call from a professor, Chrysler Alberts, about assisting in cultural protocols for a ceremonial pipe that was found. And I didn't feel comfortable doing it on my own. So I had called two of my other colleagues, Dr. Don Warren and Dr. Allison Kelleher, to assist with me as well. When we went to the space, we did smudging and some other cultural things to remove that pipe. And in that same time, we decided, let's go look at another space since it's nearby. And we knew that there was a possibility of other artifacts there. So we went to look. We went to this space. And in that space, there were shelves. And on one of those shelves, Dr. Don Warren had noticed a box. It was just a white box that had writing on it that he recognized. And in that moment, that's when we discovered the first ancestor. The box contained human remains, which we know were Native American. And I have been devastated since that day. As a former student and now a staff member, never thought that is something that I'd come across. For the committee members, it is when I had to break the news to them about what was going on. They were devastated. They were hurt. They were sad and angry. And after that finding, we immediately shut down that space and we notified und administration and we immediately got to work. President Armacost and myself have been on dozens of phone calls with tribal partners, government and state agencies, federal agencies, to talk about what we found and what we should do. And something I need to remind people of, this is not my job. This is not President Armacost's job. This is not the committee's job. We had no idea what we were doing, but we needed to do whatever we could to make sure that we did things in a right way. So throughout this whole time, we have been consulting with our partners. We have done this differently than any other institution that I know of. Typically, you go through the process of going through your inventory, which takes years. You do a final report and you hand it over to tribes to say, take care of it, clean it up, figure it out, we're done. And that's not what we wanted. And that comes from our student background of being a Native American student on campus or a minority on campus and always being the last to know about anything with our culture, our people. So we, the Indigenous members of the committee, have guided this, and we have been guided by tribal partners throughout this whole process. And I'm proud, and our committee is proud of the work that we have done. I'd be lying if I said it was easy. I'd be lying if I said it was without arguments and disagreements. It happened all the time because we were trying to find the best solution for one of the hardest things any of us have ever been through. And we've been through a lot. But again, I just want to say I am proud of the work that we have done and how we've taken such a different approach in trying to be respectful and transparent and honest and loyal partners with our other members. This is a devastating time for our campus, specifically our Indigenous staff, faculty, and students. I have been to all the meetings this week, along with Keith and our other committee members. And the one that hurt me the most was the students one, because I had to see how devastated they were. And I had to give them more questions than answers. And that hurts. That's why I just say, you need to take care of yourself and make sure you're okay. And it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. But know there are people here to help you, to take care of you, to be a lending ear, and just to listen to you. And that's, I think Keith can speak more on that since he works directly with our students. But that's kind of what my past 6 months have looked like. That doesn't get easier. It's just we're trying to do the right thing in the most respectful way for our people. And it might be hard to understand, and that's totally okay. That you need to ask questions about it to get a better understanding. But I'll just turn it over to Keith.
Thank you, Laine. My name is Keith Malaterre. I work at Student Diversity and Inclusion, and I'm a member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians. And I just want to say that this has been the most difficult thing I've ever had to endure at UND. It's not something anyone should ever be dealing with. It's difficult, it's stressful, and it takes an emotional toll on a person. The past 2 days, I've been at the American Indian Center with students, and there's great sadness there. But they're doing as best as they can, and I'm being there for them, not counseling them, just being there and listening to them and trying to explain to them as best I can what is going on. I do know that UND is doing the best thing possible with the repatriation process. We have been transparent. We have been listening to tribal nations. They have known since early on, and they're guiding us, and they continue to guide us. So when I see on social media that UND's was hiding, knew this since March and they were hiding, didn't want to tell people, that is not true. Tribal nations wanted us to be private, and we respected that. I just want to thank President Armacost for asking me to be on this committee. And I want to thank Laine and the other Indigenous members. It's not an easy thing, and I'm felt relief after leaving the American Indian Center last night that I no longer have to be the only one praying for the ancestors, that many people are praying for them. And now we just need to get them back to their tribal homelands. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Laine. This should give everyone a sense of the pain that our Indigenous campus members are feeling, and it's not limited to the campus either. But again, let me restate our goal and our commitment to conduct the repatriation and complete the repatriation for the ancestors as soon as possible. And what we'd like to do is open it up to questions from students and parents who are here about the repatriation issue, and then, time permitting, at the end, we'll turn it over to a more general set of questions. But let's first entertain the questions that you might have about this news that emerged publicly yesterday. And you can use the Q&A feature down at the bottom of your Zoom link or your Zoom screen. As we wait, I'll give some more information too. When we talk about the number of ancestors on campus, we don't know for sure, but it's in the dozens, and the total collection of ancestors and sacred items and other artifacts is about 250 moving boxes. So it'll take some time for the professionals that we bring aboard on our team to go through those and to really determine how to connect the ancestors and the items to tribal lands. So looking through data and understanding what sites they might have been taken from. Wait a few more minutes to see if there's any questions. Laine, any additional comments, or Keith?
No, I wanted to thank you all for taking time to listen. If you do have questions, again, reach out to our committee, reach out to others who can get us in contact with you. We are, like I said, we're trying to be transparent as possible with this while being respectful to our partners as well. If you see information on media that you have questions about, let us know, because we are trying to, like I said, be transparent and honest. And if you have questions about something, please let us know. Thanks.
And we do have a question about, do we know how the items got to the university? So the early work that began in November was really focused on collections that have been donated to the university and what are our responsibilities to repatriate any of the sacred items that were in that collection. And then, as Laine pointed out, in March is when we discovered a whole another dimension to the repatriation needs, and that was the discovery of ancestors and other artifacts. Those ancestors were excavated as part of archaeological digs. Many of them have numbers associated with them, site numbers, and so it was in the name of archaeology and science. And we do know that some were taken from sacred burial mounds. We don't know if all of them were, but so again, the practice of going in to sacred areas, sacred burial mounds, and removing not just artifacts but actual ancestors is today we know to be a reprehensible practice, and yet this was the practice that was done for many decades. And UND had a fairly substantial archaeological research center. It was called UNDAR, UND Archaeological Research, and it did this type of work of excavation and examination of human remains and other artifacts for decades. And so so this is likely how these ancestors and the other artifacts came into our possession. Laine, you might have additional comments to add.
Like President Armacost said, we don't exactly know how everything got here. We have speculation and we have some information as to these are burial remains. And for those who don't know, in our culture, there is not a practice, there's not a tradition in how to put people back in the ground, because that's not what you do. Once you're in the ground, you have ceremony, but to put you back in, there is not. So in all the entities that we're working with, they're trying to figure this out too. And what are we going to do and how are we going to do this? And it's a question that remains unanswered for now. But as we get through this process, we'll figure that out with each tribal entity and partner, because as Native American people, although we identify as one person, we do have multiple practices and different cultural protocols as well.
There is a question about, I'll just read it. This is a statement of condolences. My condolences as well. What a difficult and devastating time. I'm sending all my support, and thank you to the person for sending that support. The question is there a way to donate to help the repatriation? And currently we haven't set up a donor fund to support repatriation. It's an interesting idea. Laine is a development officer. She might have some thoughts here. But the broader question is, how are we planning on paying for this? And the university is committed to paying all the expenses associated with bringing experts onto the campus to do this work, to bring tribal leaders and tribal representatives to campus to be involved as well. So the university will commit to covering these expenses. The idea of a repatriation donor fund is an interesting one, and we'll explore that. But it would be a wonderful statement for people to say we support this idea by contributing, but nonetheless, this is the university's mistake. The university has the responsibility to make sure we pay for these activities. And finally, there are funds, grant funds available from NAGPRA, the organization, or the act is called NAGPRA, the Native American Grave Protection and Repatriation Act. And there are grants associated with executing work under that law. So that's another source as well. Laine, you popped on for a moment.
The same question was posed to us a few days ago once we spoke with them, someone wanted to potentially help in this area. It's not something like President Armacost said, it's not something we have set up yet. It's something we can explore. But like he said as well, this is the university's responsibility to cover, and there are other granting funds. We appreciate the question. It's something that we're exploring.
And then there's same questioner asked, well, what about a repatriation education fund? That's another novel idea. There is other ways to support Native American students as well. There are a number of scholarship funds too that go to direct support for the tuition and fees and cost of living requirements for Native American students. So there's a number of possibilities. We'll add that information to our frequently asked questions page on the website. Another question came up, is it possible that past administrations at UND knew that the university had these items and ancestors? That's a difficult question to answer because we don't have a specific data or letters or information that indicate who knew what when. I would suspect we have seen some correspondence in the past that was sent to the president's office that indicated the need to repatriate artifacts. That repatriation could have been done. It could have been for different artifacts rather than the ones that we've recently discovered on campus. My point is, it's hard to know who knew, what researchers knew, what department chairs knew, what presidents knew, but that's part of the examination that we have to do. But again, the first priority is to repatriate the ancestors. It's a great question. Okay, any other questions about repatriation? All right, let me thank both Laine Lyons and Keith Malaterre for being here and for sharing their experiences. It's been a painful time for them and for all the students and colleagues that they've been working with. So let me, again, my profound thanks to both Laine and Keith for all of their work. I'll give them a Zoom round of applause too. So thanks. And you can stick around, or you can take off, Laine and Keith. I know it's been a long day for you. All right. More questions are coming in. And Cassie, did you want to give some additional remarks to kick off the next section of the town hall session?
I'm happy to do so. I'll just add, President Armacost, for those of you who may not be aware, or maybe students, if you didn't read your email, I know President Armacost issued a statement yesterday related to the repatriation, as well as for families who might be joining us. The President's statement, as well as the frequently asked questions he referenced, are posted on a blog site. So you can find that information on the UND website if you weren't able to see the President's statement from yesterday and more information. So just one more follow-up. And I will add that included in the President's statement were some resources for students who might need support. So whether that be our counseling center or other resources, that information is there. And if people have questions, by all means, let us know. So with that, please feel free, if you have questions on either repatriation, happy to go back to it, or other topics, by all means, please add it to the Q&A. A number of colleagues joining us from across campus, so hopefully we can cover all bases. President Armacost, the first question that's come in, I think, is most likely best answered by you. And so as you come back on the screen, the question is UND involved in the discussions about the construction of the Fufeng corn mill? I heard last year that there were concerns about these new buildings having an impact on the flight areas around the Grand Forks Airport. So maybe I'll start with you, and if Dean Krause has anything else to add in relation to the airport, but we'll go ahead and start with you, sir.
We have active discussions with city leadership about the construction of the corn milling plant. There's, if you read the newspapers, there's concerns about flight trajectories and what the impact would be on UND. Excuse me, and other commercial traffic that comes into Grand Forks Airport. In addition, there have been concerns about its proximity to a sensitive military base, and whether, since this is a facility owned by subsidiary of a Chinese-owned company, does that pose any national security risks? Until the national security question is answered, the development agreement that is being developed between the city and Fufeng is still active. We have, I think, currently 2 Fufeng employees sitting in offices or using offices associated with the UND Center for Innovation. And as long as those development agreements and there's no national security concerns identified, they'll be welcome partners on our campus as they seek to enter our community. If that changes, we'll keep everyone posted. But as far as the flight question, Dean Bob Krause of the Odegaard School of Aerospace Sciences is here. He can talk about that.
Thank you, President Armacost. Yeah, we've been involved with, so since I arrived on campus almost a year and a half ago, we've been involved with the city administration as well as the Economic Development Corporation. The Fufeng plant was more recently this year, but our main participation, in addition to the city side, is working with, there's been some engineering studies that have been going on to look at the specific impacts to our flight operations. And we've participated extensively with those engineering discussions to ensure that there are no impacts to our flight operations. And so it's both with the Fufeng plant as well as the NPN fertilizer plant. And I can also say that just prior to coming on this town hall meeting, there was a breaking story from the Grand Forks Herald that the city is pausing the planning for the Fufeng plant based on some information still requested from the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. And so none of these plants are a done deal, and we are actively involved in protecting our aerospace programs.
Thanks, Dean Krause. So the next 2 questions are all Family Weekend related. And so I'm going to tap Christy Okerlund, who leads Family Weekend. So Christy, first one, people are wondering when Family Weekend will be released so they can get football tickets, as well as maybe how parking works for Family Weekend. And so as the person who coordinates Family Weekend, I'm going to have you answer both of those, please.
Thanks, Cassie. Hi, everyone. My name is Christy Okerlund, Director of Student Involvement and Parent Programs, and I have the pleasure of planning Family Weekend. This year, it is October 21st to the 23rd. The website is simply und.edu/Family Weekend. And our athletics partners are in the process of finalizing the discount codes for both football tickets and volleyball tickets during Family Weekend. So very soon, I am told, I don't have an exact date, but I hope in the next couple of weeks, I will be able to send that out via our parent listserv. If you are not currently on the listserv or you're not sure if you are, you're welcome to send me an email, christy.okerlund@und.edu. And I'm happy to confirm that you are indeed in our parent listserv. So those tickets will be soon, and they do reserve, our athletic partners do a great job. They do reserve a section of the Allaire Center for our Family Weekend attendees. So you're more than welcome if you're antsy to just go ahead and buy those football tickets. But if you want to wait for the discount and the opportunity to sit with other family members, that will be coming out soon. And then as far as parking works, I am in the process of working with our parking team to designate some parking lots that will be used for Family Weekend on Friday. And then over the weekend, there are areas of campus that you're able to park in without a permit. So all of that will come out in my emails. The website will be updated as those ticket links are available as well. And we are very excited to welcome you all to campus for Family Weekend.
Christy, before you go, one other thing, because I think it sometimes can be confusing for parents who might be their first Family Weekend. Will you just explain how it works with the students having tickets to the football game and then the families and what that means to sit together? Can you just explain that, please?
Absolutely. So our students are able to attend football games and volleyball games at no additional cost using their green and white account. They claim their tickets in their account and load them into their cart, and there's no charge for those. However, if you do want to be guaranteed, 100% guaranteed to sit with your student at the football game, you will want to purchase a general admission reserved ticket for your student rather than them using their student ticket for the game to be guaranteed to sit together. The Family Weekend section that our athletic partners designate for us is right next to the student section. So it's really close. But if you do want to sit right next to your student, it is the best idea to purchase them a ticket to sit with you.
Thanks, Christy. I will remind people, please, if you have additional questions, by all means, keep adding them to the Q&A. And as a reminder, because we didn't share the dates, Family Weekend is the weekend of October 21st through the 23rd. So again, more information on the website, but it is late October this year for Family Weekend. So I'm just going to hold in case there's some other questions that people have. And if you don't have questions, that's great too. Hopefully it means everything has been answered, and students, that you're doing well, and family members, that you're doing well. As I see students on campus, I'm confirming many of our students still have 100% attendance records so far. So we know they're going to class, and I keep checking, and I want to ring on Apple Watches to confirm that and give them a little boost when they do that. Next question, I'm just reading it too, because I know Christy's also reading it. So why don't we start with spring semester starts. So Christy's typing in the answer to that one. I apologize. So question, with COVID largely behind us, we were very surprised to see that 3 of our junior aviation sons classes, so Dean Krause, this might be for you, or Brian Willis, 3 of our junior aviation sons classes were online only. Not sure if common or an anomaly, but it was frustrating. What are the criteria and who decides? Thank you. So any feedback on classes maybe that have either only been offered online, or I think it's more about they're offered online, maybe not a transition.
Well, there is some confusion as to whether it was planned and registered to be an online class in the beginning, or whether it was a class that was expected to be in person and became online. So in general, a university policy is if it was registered and planned to be an in-person class, it should be an in-person class. We have allowed professors that if they are COVID sensitive or worried about those types of things, they can ask the students to wear a mask. And so what should not be happening is a professor arbitrarily saying, I have an in-person class, and then making that class remote. And so there may have been some confusion in the registration process. And then we do have some classes that are online in the registration process. And so there may have been a mistake in the registration, but if there is a class that was supposed to be online and became remote without going through the registration procedures, then we should be aware of that and take care of it.
Thanks, Dean Krause. Appreciate the comment of a new parent who enjoys the town halls. I'm going to come back to you, President Armacost. So in terms of the town halls, we've tried to offer them once or twice during the semester. This is something we started obviously during COVID to provide some updates, but parents, we certainly have started all of our semesters with this opportunity a couple of weeks in, and then as the need arises. So we appreciate that you like the format, and I think you'll continue to see those offered. So sorry, President Armacost, I interrupted you when you wanted to add something, sir.
I was just going to follow on Dean Krause's comments. And we saw an interesting phenomenon in a couple places, and that was when students were given the choice of a course that's offered both online and in person. The sections that filled up the quickest in a number of cases were the ones that were online. And so interestingly, we also know students, I'm not saying that's the case in the questioner's child's case, but there are some cases where students actually, when given the choice, are saying, tell you what, I'd rather do it online than in person. And this is, perhaps this is a transition that we're seeing post-COVID, where students have said, wow, this is a really good opportunity. We've also heard they like the ability to chat during class using the chat function on Zoom. So interesting phenomenon, and we'll pay close attention to those trends and what students are driving us to. So
thanks, President Armacost. Dr. Pokarnowski, I'm going to offer this question to you. So the question is, I have a question about illness. My son has been sick and his friends tested positive for COVID. As a new freshman, what is the plan for missed classes? Example, can they Zoom in? So plan for ill children, even if it's not COVID.
Yeah, so the first thing they should really do is reach out and talk to their specific faculty member to see what they can do for the course. If illness becomes like hospitalization or those sorts of things, there's some additional resources that we can offer through the Office of Student Rights and Responsibilities, such as absence notifications and those sorts of things. But whether it's COVID or any other type of illness, the first thing I would encourage a student to do is to reach out to their faculty member to ask their faculty member what they do in their course for making up work.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, as a new student, sometimes emailing faculty members about an illness is a big step, but you will find that our faculty members understand that students get ill. It's just the communication. So all of our students should have their faculty members' contact information, and sometimes they just need that reminder. Unlike students in high school where you called the office to let them know your student was going to be absent, now it's on the student to make that connection with their faculty members. Sorry, Alex, you were going to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if students are struggling to figure that out, it's in Starfish. Their Success Network has all of their faculty members' contact information. So a really easy way for students to find out how to email and contact all of them.
Sounds good. Dean Krause, I'm gonna go to a couple of aerospace questions for you. Questions about the runways have been closed. Is it still scheduled to be open again this coming week? So any updates on runway repairs?
I have lots of updates. And so Delta Airlines will actually start resuming flying tomorrow. We are slowly going to reopen the rest of the airport operations over the weekend, slowly phasing those things in because they still have to put some runway lights and things like that in. But over the next 4 days, we'll see an increase in the number of flights. We did not stop flying. We just scaled some courses back over the past 2 weeks. So commercial flights resume tomorrow, and we will be back to a full schedule by Tuesday. That will complete the runway intersection construction, and then we should be finishing up the ramp construction within the next week or two also, and then we'll be back to normal operations through the winter.
Great, thank you. Dean Krause, there is a question. Will there be an aviation parent Zoom meeting for the semester? It has been very helpful for parents to have the opportunity to learn more about what the aviation programming is doing each semester. So if one isn't planned, perhaps an encouragement to plan one.
I will take that under consideration, and we'll see what we can do.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dean Krause. I'll read this one, and I don't know, Chief Clark, if you've got information to share. The question is, I understand that there may be a petitioner who is an older gentleman on campus but not attending UND, trying to get students to sign a petition. Are you aware of it? Is campus police making sure that he's not hassling students? I know I've seen individuals this week on the public sidewalks, which is a space that people can be on, but I don't know, Chief Clark, if you've seen anything else or aware of anything.
No, thanks, Cassie. I'm not aware of this particular gentleman or petitioner in question, but as a general rule, of course, we're on campus every day, 24 hours a day, and we're making sure, like I think the person used the word like hassling students. If anything like that came to our attention, or if anybody wanted to report it, we would immediately look into it and trying to make a determination with other agencies on campus whether the person is acting legally or not. But yes, please, if anybody has any information like that that concerns them, always call campus police and we will sort it out with other university offices.
Hey, Chief, what's the number for campus police?
Oh, you can, I have it here.
3491.
There you go. Cassie always helps.
Sorry, Chief, 3491. Sometimes I give Chief's direct line, but 3491 is the non-911 number for you, Chief.
Yeah, I still have to look at my business card sometimes to look at it.
I've called it once or twice in my time here. So I'll just also add a reminder, there are a number of events coming up this fall that have been approved on campus where people may be distributing things. We have an event coming up in a couple of weeks where an off-campus group will be distributing copies of the New Testament on the public sidewalks. It is a group that has come to campus and registered their event for as long as I've been affiliated. I can remember it as an undergrad. They go through the appropriate process. And from my time, if students just say, no, I'm not interested and walk past, that is respected. Again, to go back to what Chief said, if there are concerns, students should feel more than comfortable to call the 3491 and ask for an officer to come to assist them. So just as a reminder.
Cassie, there was one question that popped up kind of offline, or a rumor I wanted to quickly control, and that is this goes back to human remains on campus, and that is that human remains were reportedly found in a closet on campus, and that's a rumor. It's not true, and all of the remains that we have found on campus have generally been in like science labs or storerooms associated with those science labs. So I just wanted to put that rumor to rest.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Chief Clark, probably one for you. A question about bicycle safety and how are bicycle riders safely protected or addressed? For parents who maybe aren't in Grand Forks, it is beautiful fall evenings. There is lots of activities with skateboards, bicycles, rollerblades, scooters, all of that activity. So Chief Clark, any feedback in terms of general bicycle safety on campus and how things are addressed?
Yeah, generally, Cassie, there's an obligation for motorists to share the road with bicyclists or other vehicles like that. One thing the university does have along University Avenue, there's a pretty substantial bike lane that is kind of designed for the safety of bike riders. So that they share the road with cars there, but bicycle rules and regulations are kind of covered under North Dakota Century Code, and it's too long for me to recite every part of Century Code here, but kind of a general rule. They have some of the same obligations as motorists as far as, signaling when they're turning and obeying traffic laws and things of that nature. But there are, like I said, the extensive bike lane, and there's some other safety features to watch out for pedestrians and things like that when crossing the road, like pushing buttons to alert, signage and lights that somebody's crossing the road, that either somebody on foot or on a bicycle is welcome to use.
Great, thanks. It's a busy time on campus. Students are certainly taking advantage of the nice evenings and getting in a little exercise and things like that. A question, and Dr. Hellwig, I'll probably pose this one to you. Any thoughts about getting RAs free parking or some other perks, since they only receive free rooming but must still purchase a meal plan? So any thoughts on compensation for our resident assistants?
Well, I will tell you, I really appreciate the question. Our RAs work so hard to support students, and they live with the students. I have not heard any discussions about free parking, but I would be very interested in bringing that idea back and having a conversation. So thank you very much for posing it to us.
Thanks, Dr. Hellwig. As a former RA myself, I'm all for our RAs, the amazing work that they do for students. So we just want to give it some more time. Dean Cross, I know the one parent with the specific class question is commented to you just so you're aware of the specific classes. So want to continue to allow time. We're happy to stay as long as we want, and we kind of plan for the hour. So if there are other questions, we certainly hope that our new students are getting acclimated and getting connected. Family members, if this was your first student to go to school, we hope you are doing well with the transition. Maybe your house is like mine. Some of you who joined us for orientation know that I have my oldest son who started college this fall. I've discovered that he is the milk drinker and the ketchup eater in our house, as I have thrown away milk the last couple of weeks that has gone unused by my younger son and my husband and I. So perhaps you're finding those same shifts. I think we have students who are missing pets. I find much love and excitement about upcoming therapy dogs being on campus, and when Bear, the canine unit, is out and about. So we hope those transitions are going well for your families and for students. Just want to give it another minute. I learned from someone the other day, a faculty member, like, do you count from 15 down to see and give people time for some questions? And if you get to the final number, perhaps that is the chance to wrap things up. As we look for some other questions, Dr. Hellwig, I'm going to pivot this one to you. It's a question about the transition to McVeigh. So can you describe the process by which students currently in Walsh will move to the new residence hall, McVeigh Hall? So any updates on that process?
Yes, we are so excited to be opening McVeigh Hall, and it is getting close to completion. It'll be this fall that we will have that opportunity to move. We'll be advertising it with the residents very clearly. And we will be having a group to help move the students, so they're not going to have to do everything themselves. And I think it will be a very smooth process. We hope so anyway. We are going to be celebrating this new building. It's brand new, and we hope that the Walsh residents are excited about it. We know it's kind of unusual to move in the middle of the semester, but we are crossing our fingers that it goes really well.
Thanks, Dr. Helwig. While we continue to give people a chance to insert questions, I know my colleague, Chelsea Mellenthin, maybe has an announcement to share to make sure that families and students are aware of an upcoming event. So Chelsea, it's you.
Yes, thanks so much, Cassie. Hi, I'm Chelsea Mellenthin. I'm the Assistant Director for Career Services and Academic Advising. I just wanted to put a plug out there for our upcoming Fall 2022 Career Expo taking place at the Alaris Center from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. We have over 200 companies that are registered. It is our largest ever. So I recommend and highly encourage any students to come out, whether freshmen, alumni, junior, sophomore, junior, senior, please come out, visit with employers. They are yearning for the chance to connect with our UND students. Free lunch will be provided at the expo the day of, and we are currently in the process of working on getting $10 vouchers for any students that do come out. So would love to see your students out there visiting with employers. Students can also, if you're a little bit nervous, can visit with our friendly staff in career services located on the 3rd floor of the Memorial Union. Walk in anytime. We can help you with Career Expo prep, or you can schedule an appointment or even just send in your online document as well. So would love to see you out there. Thanks so much, Cassie.
Chelsea, repeat the dates. Someone just missed the dates. Can you just say the dates again?
Yes, I'm so sorry. It is Tuesday, September 20th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Alaris Center. I'm glad I repeated that because one other important information, we will be providing transportation with multiple stops along University Avenue. So I believe it's Odegaard, the Nistler College, and then also the Memorial Union. So we will have 3 vans that will rotate around University Avenue, providing transportation for students if that's needed. For any of our online student population as well, we do have a virtual career expo, which will be on Wednesday, October 5th from 11 to 1 Central Time.
Thanks, Chelsea. Dean Krause and Brian, I hope you saw the comment that's already been deleted from a family member just praising the aerospace program. I think they said they think the college is one of the best aerospace programs in the nation. I argue that it is the best. So I just want to make sure you saw the compliment from a family member. So they're both giving thumbs up. So I think it is the best is what I say, but I might be biased. So much thanks. There's a question being raised about when McVeigh opens, will there be additional residence hall parking? It's so tight right now. I'll go ahead and take this one, and if others have anything to add, we're not adding more parking lots in that housing area. So the students who currently live in Walsh Hall and who will be transitioning to McVeigh, they have H-18 permits. H-18 permits work in the lot that is to the northwest of Walsh Residence Hall. They work in the lot that is to the north of Brannan, Norrin, and Selke. And there are also some H-18 spaces to the south of the Goretzky Alumni Center, which is the place that if you came for a campus tour is also where admissions is housed. So there are parking spots. I know that they're not all right next to buildings, but the students, there won't be more parking lots built. I understand the challenges of this. The first night my son was in the halls, I got a call at 11:15 p.m. and Mom, I can't find a parking spot. Where do I go? He lives in Squires Residence Hall. And so he learned how to walk from Gretzky to Squires. And so there are parking spaces. Again, not all of them are right next to their buildings, but there is sufficient parking. And we recognize, though, getting used to what does that mean. But to answer the question, there will not be additional parking lots. Dean Krause or Brian, question that's populated. Sorry, we're kind of all over, but I want to make sure we get this. Is a student considered a current student if still finishing a flight course, but not enrolled in any other courses?
Cassie, I might need some help on this one from Alex also, but I can answer. I believe that if it's a summer that the student is here, they are still considered a registered student as long as they were planning on coming back in the fall. So the summer is taken care of. Where it becomes a gray area is if the student in the current fall semester is only in a holdover flight course. And this comes down to access to university services because the student has not paid the fees for those services for that semester. So I believe they are a current student, but the issue is access to services. And so Alex, do we have a resolution on that?
Yep, that is accurate what you just said. And what I would say is that if that student is finishing up and wants to access services, let's say the counseling center, for example, they have an opportunity to pay an additional fee to access that service during that specific semester, where they are finishing up a flight course or whatever it might be.
But we are not requiring them to register for a certain number of credits and pay another tuition bill. It's a fee-based service at that point.
If they want to access it, yes,
Right.
that's correct.
Thanks to you both. So I'll just give it a pause and maybe do a last call in light of time for any additional questions. I'll also offer, if as soon as we adjourn this town hall, you have other questions, my name appears on the screen. My email is thecassie.gerhardt@und.edu, and please feel free to send me an email. Many of you get the parent newsletters from Christy Okerlund. I know Christy is happy to respond to emails, and if we can't answer questions, certainly we are fortunate to work with colleagues who are quick to respond when we loop them into questions that family members or students have. We know we're coming up on the Labor Day weekend. I'll just remind students and parents, you can nudge your students. I know Christy's office student involvement. Students can pick up a free movie ticket for the weekend. They just have to show their ID and they can go to the River Cinema, the local theater in East Grand Forks, and go to a movie of their choosing. So there's things going on this weekend. I know our Wellness Center has got a Smash Bros, which I know is a video game from my own sons, a tournament going on. The Wellness Center will be open. So while campus might be a little quieter over their Labor Day weekend, there are still things going on both on campus and in the Grand Forks community, and lots of activities listed on the UND calendar that students can look at. So again, we know that first 3-day weekend, especially for our new students, might take some adjustment, but there are things to do and see and places to go here in Grand Forks. So President Armacost, I'm seeing kind of the conclusion to questions. So sir, I don't know if you have some closing remarks you want to share, but I'm going to turn it over to you to sign us off for the night.
Right. Thanks, Cassie, for hosting, and thanks to all the great questions that came in. Thanks to my colleagues for joining us tonight and giving such great answers. As Cassie pointed out, if you have additional questions, just reach out. We're here to support you. We're here to support your students. I guess that comment was directed at the parents who are here, but to the students, if you have questions, reach out. And we're here to help. We're here to make sure that your experience at UND is the best it possibly can be. So thanks to everybody for joining tonight, and we'll talk to you soon.